The chamber was dark, filled with a low hum of voices. The council of alien elders had gathered once again, their long cloaks brushing against the cold floor as they leaned closer to one another. Each voice was low, almost a whisper, but the tone carried fear. At the center of the round table glowed a large screen, and on it, a frozen image of a human soldier stood still, locked in time. His armor was nothing compared to the layers of scales, chitin, and bone that most species needed to survive combat. He looked soft, fragile, weak. But the whispers of the council said something else. One elder leaned forward, his voice sharp. "Explain to me again why these creatures survive without natural armor. Why do they walk through war zones like they are born from fire itself? It should not be possible." His eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, betraying unease. Another alien, taller and with ridged plates covering his head, slowly raised a hand. "I have seen it myself. They bleed, yes. They take wounds that would kill one of us within seconds. But they continue to move. They continue to fight. As if their bodies refuse to die." He paused, his throat vibrating with a growl. "It is not natural." The youngest member of the council, a scholar from the outer colonies, adjusted the control on the table. The frozen image on the screen flickered, and the recording began to play. At first, the chamber was filled with static, then with the distant sound of explosions. The image sharpened. A battlefield stretched wide, fire burning in the distance, smoke thick in the air. Alien soldiers, armored from head to toe in heavy plating, pushed forward in formation. They looked strong, unstoppable, like living tanks. Then the humans appeared. They were smaller, their armor light, almost laughable compared to the others. The aliens in the council leaned forward instinctively, eyes narrowing, waiting for the slaughter. But the expected defeat never came. Instead, the humans charged through the chaos. Bullets tore through their ranks, blasts sent them flying, and yet, they rose again. A man, his arm burned and his leg dragging, still fired his weapon with steady aim. A woman, blood covering her face, sprinted through fire as if it were no more than smoke. They should have fallen. They should have died. But they didn't. Not quickly. Not quietly. The chamber filled with silence as the council watched the recording. One elder hissed, gripping the edge of the table. "Impossible. Their flesh is too weak. Their bones are too fragile. They should break. They should burn." But they did not. The soldiers fought until the last breath left them, and even then, their comrades dragged them forward, refusing to abandon the fallen. It was not just survival. It was something else. Something deeper. The aliens had seen bravery before. They had seen loyalty. But this was different. The scholar stopped the recording. The screen went black, leaving only the memory of what they had just witnessed. His voice trembled as he spoke. This was only one small unit. A colony skirmish, not even a full war. And yet they fought as if their very souls demanded victory. Even when torn apart, they held the line. Even when fire consumed them, they moved forward. One of the older members slammed a clawed hand on the table. "Do you not see? This is why they need no armor. Their bodies may break, but their spirit does not. That is the true horror." The council shifted uneasily. Some muttered about myths they had heard, stories of humans surviving in impossible conditions, frozen wastelands, burning deserts, the vacuum of space itself. Others dismissed them as exaggerations, tales spun to frighten younglings. But the recording was not a story. It was truth. Another elder leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "Perhaps they are built to endure. Their bodies adapt quickly. They heal faster than most species. Their pain tolerance is unnatural. Perhaps this is their secret. Not armor. Not strength. Endurance." He let the word linger in the air, heavy and sharp. The council fell silent again, but the silence was not peace. It was fear. The thought echoed in each of their minds. If these fragile creatures, with skin so soft and bones so thin, could survive without natural armor, then what else were they capable of? What else lay hidden within their design? The scholar hesitated before speaking again. There is more. His trembling fingers touched the controls, and the recording shifted. This time it was not combat. It was aftermath. A single human, lying in a medical tent, covered in burns and cuts. His breathing was shallow, his eyes half closed. Around him, alien medics shook their heads. By their knowledge, by their science, he should have been dead already. And yet, his hand still reached out, gripping the arm of the soldier beside him. His lips moved, whispering something, though the recording had no sound. His comrade leaned down, listening, and then nodded. The injured man's eyes closed, but his chest still rose and fell, stubborn, refusing the call of death. The elder who had spoken before hissed in disbelief. That is not survival. That is defiance. Another voice, softer, added, perhaps that is what makes them dangerous. Not their weapons. Not their numbers. But their refusal to fall. The chamber's light shifted as the recording ended. The silence that followed was heavy, pressing on all who sat around the table. For the first time in centuries, the Council of Elders felt something they had nearly forgotten. Fear not of monsters with claws or predators with armor, but of something far more dangerous. Something fragile. Something human. The scholar looked around the table, his voice quiet but firm. If they do not need armor, if they are already unstoppable, what chance do we truly have when they decide to turn their eyes toward us? The question hung in the air like smoke, clinging to every corner of the chamber. None answered. None could. The image of humans charging through fire, bleeding but unbroken, burned into their minds like a scar. The council knew, in that moment, that the galaxy had changed. And nothing would ever be the same again. The chamber emptied slowly, but whispers lingered in the shadows long after the elders had left. Word of the meeting spread across the fleet like sparks in dry grass. Captains, soldiers, even scholars spoke quietly about the strange resilience of humankind. Rumors grew with every telling. Some said humans could fight for days without sleep, others claimed they could drink poison and survive. No one knew where the truth ended and the myth began, but all agreed on one thing: humanity was not like the others. Far from the council, a young alien soldier sat inside a barrack ship, his clawed fingers tapping against his weapon. His eyes burned with unease as he spoke to his commander. I don't understand, sir. If these humans are so weak, why do they keep standing? Why don't they fall like the others? It makes no sense. The commander, an old veteran with scars running down his plated neck, looked at him with heavy eyes. Because, boy, they are built different. You think their soft skin makes them weak, but I've seen them bleed and keep walking. I've seen them laugh while their bones were broken. I've seen them die standing, refusing to kneel. His voice lowered, almost a growl. You will understand when you see them yourself. The soldier shivered, though the air was warm. His commander's words carried no exaggeration. He had heard the same tone in the council's whispers, the same dread in the voices of those who had survived human encounters. The fear was contagious, spreading through the ranks before the war had even begun. Outside the barracks, fleets moved silently in the void. The alien armada was vast, stretching from one end of the sector to the other, shining with the light of thousands of warships. Their plan was simple: strike a human colony, seize resources, and crush resistance before it began. It had worked against countless other species. To the soldier, it seemed impossible that humans would stand any chance. And yet, doubt gnawed at him. On the colony below, humans prepared in their own way. They had no thick plating, no natural armor, no claws or fangs. Their technology was not the most advanced in the galaxy. But their eyes burned with something that machines and armor could not provide. Families gathered in shelters, soldiers checked their weapons, engineers fortified walls with whatever they could find. They knew the enemy was coming. They knew they were outnumbered. And still, they stood ready. The soldiers' ship descended with the fleet, the engines shaking as they entered the atmosphere. The view through the portholes revealed smoke rising from distant settlements, flames spreading across fields and forests. The order came through the comms: advance, sweep, eliminate. The soldier marched alongside others, his weapon raised, his armor shining under the burning sky. At first, he saw only empty streets, the remains of human life abandoned in haste. But then he heard it, distant gunfire, sharp and fast, echoing through the ruined colony. His heart pounded. The humans were waiting. The first clash came quickly. Humans emerged from cover, firing with precision and fury. They were not protected by heavy armor, and yet they did not hesitate to step into danger. Bullets tore through alien plating, and explosions rang out from improvised traps hidden along the roads. The soldiers' comrades fell, one by one, but the humans kept moving, even when wounded. He saw one man collapse to his knees, blood soaking his chest, but the man still aimed his weapon, firing until the last breath escaped him. The commander's words returned to the soldier's mind. They are built different. The aliens pressed forward, their numbers overwhelming. The humans should have broken, but they didn't. They fell back slowly, always fighting, always dragging their injured with them. Every street turned into a battlefield, every building into a fortress. The soldier could not understand. No training manual, no war doctrine had prepared him for enemies like these. Hours passed, and still the humans fought. Smoke blackened the sky, fires spread across the colony, and bodies lay everywhere. Yet the living refused to surrender. Their voices carried through the chaos, shouts, commands, and sometimes even laughter, as if the fire itself was not enough to silence them. The young soldier felt something he had never felt in battle before. It was not victory, not pride. It was fear. He watched a woman with a shattered arm pick up a weapon with the other and charge forward, her eyes blazing. He saw a group of humans surround a wounded comrade, protecting him with their bodies while returning fire at impossible odds. They fought not as individuals, but as one, bound by something the aliens could not name. When night fell, the battlefield was silent only for moments. Then the attacks began again. Humans moved through the dark like shadows, striking and vanishing, relentless as the storm. The soldier could not sleep, could not close his eyes without seeing their faces, pale and bloodied, yet unbroken. By dawn, the colony was still burning, but the humans were still there, still standing, still fighting. The young soldier looked at them and felt a cold truth settle in his chest. His people had armor, weapons, and numbers. The humans had none of those advantages. And yet, in the eyes of the soldier, it was clear which side was truly indestructible. The days that followed were filled with blood and smoke. The alien fleet tightened its grip on the colony, pouring soldiers into the streets, determined to end resistance. Yet the humans refused to vanish. Every assault was met with counterstrikes, every capture turned into an ambush. The young alien soldier marched through shattered buildings and broken roads, but everywhere he turned, there were humans waiting, watching, ready to strike again. He had seen wars before. In those, once the enemy line broke, once their leaders fell, the battle ended quickly. But here, it was different. Humans fought even after their leaders were gone. They fought when their weapons were damaged. They fought with knives, with pipes, even with their bare hands. To the soldier, it felt less like fighting an army and more like fighting the planet itself. The harder they tried to crush the humans, the more resistance rose up from the ashes. Reports spread through the alien ranks. Whispers of soldiers who had emptied entire magazines into human fighters only to watch them keep crawling forward. Stories of humans surviving explosions that had vaporized armored troops. Some said it was madness. Others began to believe humans were cursed, touched by something that made them impossible to kill. One evening, as the soldier cleaned his weapon under the faint light of a ruined street lamp, he overheard his commander speaking to another officer. Their voices were low, but the words carried enough weight to make his blood run cold. "They do not fear death," the commander said. "That is the difference. We fight to live. They fight even as they die. And that is what makes them dangerous." The young soldier's claws trembled against the rifle. He had thought the humans reckless, but now he began to see the truth. They were not reckless. They were deliberate. Every action, every sacrifice, had meaning. When one fell, another took his place. When a group was cornered, they fought harder, as if cornered prey had turned into predators. The next battle came at dawn. The alien fleet launched a massive offensive, determined to end the conflict in one strike. Tanks rolled through the broken streets, heavy artillery thundered against human defenses, and the air filled with smoke so thick it blocked out the sun. The soldier advanced with his unit, heart pounding. This time, they told themselves, the humans would finally fall. But when the smoke cleared, the humans stood again. A barricade of debris and steel blocked the road, and behind it, dozens of humans opened fire with precise, relentless bursts. Explosions tore through the alien lines. Screams echoed. The soldier pressed himself against a wall, watching the chaos unfold, and then he saw it. One human soldier standing in the open, riddled with wounds, blood soaking his uniform. By all reason, by all logic, the man should have collapsed. Instead, he screamed a word the alien could not understand and charged forward, firing until the very last second. The alien soldiers hesitated. Some even stumbled back, shaken not by weapons but by the sight of an enemy who refused to die properly. The commander roared for them to advance. But the fear was already there, spreading like a sickness. Hours later, when the battle ended, the road was littered with bodies, alien and human alike. The barricade was gone, destroyed by tanks, but the humans had not been defeated. They had only retreated deeper into the colony, drawing the aliens further into a maze of fire and steel. That night, the young soldier could not close his eyes. He kept seeing the human charging into fire, his body broken but his spirit unbending. The image gnawed at him, hollowing him out. He remembered the council's words, the whispers of elders, the fear in his commander's voice. Now he understood. These creatures had no armor, no claws, no natural defense. And yet they endured every wound, every fire, every crushing blow. They bled like rivers but still rose again. They were not indestructible in flesh, but in will. And in war, will was the sharpest weapon of all. The soldier lay awake, staring at the cracked ceiling above him, and a single thought echoed in his mind like a curse. If these were the weak, what would the strong look like? The War Council gathered once more, this time in the command chamber aboard the flagship. The air was thick with unease. Holoscreens flickered around them, displaying casualty reports, battlefield footage, and endless streams of numbers that painted a picture no one wanted to admit. Losses were climbing. Progress was slow. Entire units had been wiped out in encounters that should have been easy victories. The more they fought, the less sense it made. The High Commander, his scales dulled with age, slammed his claw against the table. "Explain this to me. How do creatures with no armor, no shields, no natural defenses, resist us this way? How are they still fighting when they should already be extinct?" His voice cracked with anger, but behind it was something worse. Fear. The council's lead scientist adjusted the controls, bringing up an image of a human body. Muscles, bones, organs all lit up with faint lines of data. "We have studied them closely," she began. "And what we found defies expectation." The chamber grew silent. Every officer leaned forward, waiting. "Their bodies are fragile, yes," she continued. "Soft skin, easily cut. Bones thinner than most predatory species. But their endurance is unmatched. They recover from wounds at speeds that rival engineered soldiers. Their pain tolerance is unnatural. In our tests, humans pushed their bodies far past safe limits and still continued functioning." Another officer hissed, shaking his head. "That is not possible." The scientist didn't flinch. "It is fact. A human can lose more blood than any of us and still stand. Their organs can fail, and yet their bodies cling to life with ferocity. They do not collapse when they should. They do not surrender to death the way we do." The holoscreen shifted, showing footage of humans in their natural environment. Harsh deserts, frozen wastelands, deep oceans. The council stared as the humans endured storms, climbed mountains, crossed endless plains with little more than willpower and stubbornness. They are not adapted to one world, the scientist said. They adapt to every world. Their resilience is their armor. The High Commander narrowed his eyes. And their minds. The scientist hesitated before answering. Even more dangerous. Their loyalty to one another drives them beyond reason. A wounded soldier will fight until another can drag him to safety. They protect their kind with a determination that no other species matches. They are never truly alone on the battlefield. That is what makes them indestructible. A murmur spread through the chamber. Some refused to believe it. Others felt the truth settle like a stone in their chest. The youngest officer, barely old enough to hold command, whispered what many were already thinking. Perhaps they don't need armor because they are the storm itself. The words silenced everyone. The commander's claws tapped against the table. His voice was low, but heavy with dread. You mean to tell me that their weakness is a mask? That beneath soft flesh lies something greater? The scientist nodded. Yes. Their true weapon is not armor. It is persistence. Pain does not stop them. Fear does not break them. They will adapt to anything we throw at them. And they will keep coming. The council fell quiet. The truth pressed down on them like the void outside their ship. They had fought enemies with claws, with teeth, with plating thicker than steel. Those battles had been predictable. But this was something far worse. The commander finally spoke, his voice shaking despite his effort to remain firm. Then our war is not against their weapons. It is against their will. No one answered. No one could. For in their hearts, they all knew what it meant. Wars could be won against armies of flesh and bone. But how did one defeat a species that refused to die, a people who carried unbreakable fire within their fragile forms? The chamber lights dimmed, and the holoscreen shut down. Silence filled the room. Each officer left with the same thought burning in their mind. Humanity did not need armor. Humanity did not need protection. They had something greater. And in the dark corners of the galaxy, that truth spread faster than any weapon, striking fear into every heart that heard it. The colony burned brighter with every passing day. Streets that had once been filled with families and laughter were now broken ruins, torn apart by fire and war. The alien fleet tightened its grip, determined to crush the humans completely. Yet no matter how hard they pressed, the resistance refused to vanish. Every time the invaders thought they had victory in hand, the humans twisted the battle into something else, something darker, sharper, more unpredictable. The young soldier marched behind his commander as their unit advanced deeper into the colony. They had orders to clear a sector that intelligence claimed was nearly empty, stripped of human fighters. But as they turned a corner, the ground itself erupted. Explosions burst from hidden mines, shaking the earth and tearing through armored lines. Smoke filled the air, screams cut through the chaos, and shadows darted across rooftops. The humans were waiting. They poured out from hidden tunnels and shattered buildings, weapons blazing, movements fast and precise. What should have been a one-sided slaughter turned into an ambush that tore the alien formation apart. The young soldier hit the ground, his heart racing as he fired blindly into the smoke. Around him, his comrades fell, their heavy armor useless against the swarm of attacks that came from every direction. Through the haze, he caught sight of them. Men and women with torn uniforms, faces streaked with dirt and blood, charging with a fury that made them look less like prey and more like predators. They shouted to each other, their voices strong even in the storm of fire. One man ran straight into an alien line, clutching an explosive pack to his chest. The blast ripped through armored troops, throwing the young soldier back against a wall. When his vision cleared, he saw the humans regrouping, dragging their injured behind cover, forming lines again as if the explosion had been nothing more than a step in their plan. The commander roared for his soldiers to push forward, but the young soldier could feel it in his bones. The battle had already shifted. The humans had seen the trap, turned it inside out, and used it as a weapon. Hours passed, but the fighting never slowed. Every time the aliens thought they had forced the humans into retreat, the humans struck from another angle. They used the broken city itself as a weapon. Walls collapsed onto armored troops, fires funneled invaders into narrow alleys, shattered glass turned into hidden snares. It wasn't brute strength that carried them. It was creativity, adaptability. The young soldier began to understand. Armor was heavy. Armor was predictable. But humans, without natural protection, had learned to make everything around them part of their survival. Every object became a tool. Every setback became a weapon. At dusk, the commander ordered a final push. Tanks rolled forward, their massive barrels glowing as they prepared to level the last barricade. The humans fell back, silent, too silent. The young soldier's claws dug into his weapon. Something felt wrong. Then it happened. A chorus of explosions erupted from the rooftops. Human fighters had climbed above the tanks, dropping explosives directly onto their armor. Flames roared into the sky, machines tore apart, and alien soldiers scattered in panic. Through the inferno, the humans charged once more, their battle cries cutting through the thunder of war. The commander staggered back, his plated face pale with shock. He whispered words that the young soldier would never forget. "They don't need armor. They are the storm." The young soldier froze, staring at the chaos, at the humans who fought with broken bodies and unshakable fire. In that moment, he realized the truth the council had feared all along. Armor did not make a species unstoppable. Strength did not make a species unbreakable. It was will. And the humans had more of it than the galaxy had ever seen. The night sky burned with fire, and the colony shook with war, but the young soldier knew something far more terrifying than defeat had taken root in his heart. He no longer feared death in battle. He feared the humans who refused to surrender, the fragile creatures who had turned weakness into the greatest weapon of all. The smoke of battle drifted into the sky, curling into the stars above like a warning to the galaxy. Word of the conflict spread faster than ships could travel. Reports moved from fleet to fleet, from one world to the next, and each telling grew darker. The name of humanity began to ripple through alien ranks like a whisper carried on the wind, unarmored, fragile, yet unyielding. For every soldier who survived fighting them, the stories became a curse shared in hushed tones. On distant ships, recruits listened wide-eyed as veterans described battles against humans. "They bleed, but they don't stop," one soldier muttered, staring into the distance. "You can burn them, crush them, break their bones. They still rise again. It's like fighting ghosts that refuse to stay dead." Another added, voice shaking, "I saw a man take 3 blasts to the chest and still charge me. He shouldn't have lived more than seconds. He fought for minutes." The young soldier, now hardened by endless clashes on the colony, sat quietly when he heard such tales. He did not need the stories. He had seen the truth with his own eyes. He had watched humans crawl through fire, carrying comrades when they themselves should have collapsed. He had seen mothers clutch rifles and stand beside soldiers, their eyes blazing with the same refusal to yield. He no longer doubted. He feared. Across the stars, alien leaders began to argue. Some dismissed the rumors as exaggerations born of panic. Others demanded stronger weapons, greater fleets, heavier armor. But the most cautious among them said little, their silence betraying the weight of what they already understood. Humanity was not just another rival species. Humanity was something else entirely. The young soldier's fleet received orders to hold the colony at all costs. Reinforcements had arrived, swelling their numbers, but morale sagged. Soldiers muttered in the barracks, claws trembling on their rifles. No one admitted it aloud, but all felt the same truth pressing down on them. They were no longer hunting prey, they were fighting predators disguised as prey. When the next battle came, it was worse than anything before. Humans launched raids in the dead of night, striking supply lines, vanishing into the ruins like shadows. Patrols went missing without a trace, their screams heard only once through comms before silence swallowed them. Traps appeared everywhere, streets collapsing, fires consuming fuel stores, snipers firing from impossible angles. The alien fleet had the numbers, the weapons, the armor, but none of it mattered. Every advantage turned into a weakness in human hands. The young soldier marched through the ruins with his unit, nerves stretched tight as wire. The silence of the broken city pressed on them like a weight. Suddenly, gunfire ripped through the air, and shadows erupted from every doorway. Humans struck fast, precise, their movements terrifying in their certainty. He saw a woman with a bandaged leg pull another fighter to safety while firing at the enemy with perfect aim. He saw a man with half his armor burned away tackle an alien twice his size, both crashing into the rubble in a desperate struggle. They fought not like soldiers bound by orders, but like creatures bound by something stronger. By dawn, the aliens had pushed the humans back again, but the victory felt hollow. The ground was littered with the dead, and yet the humans had left their mark. They had stolen supplies, destroyed machines, shattered morale. The young soldier stood in the wreckage, his chest tight, his claws shaking against his rifle. He remembered his commander's words. They don't need armor. They are the storm. Now he understood the deeper truth. Armor was meant to protect the body, to shield the flesh from harm. But humans had built a different kind of armor, one unseen, one unbreakable. Their armor was will. Their armor was unity. Their armor was the fire inside them that no weapon could extinguish. And as more reports poured in from across the galaxy, pirates routed, predators slain, even the most dangerous worlds bent to human survival, the fear grew heavier. The whispers turned into warnings. The warnings turned into dread. The young soldier stared at the burning horizon of the colony and felt it sink into his bones. The galaxy had awakened something it could never put back to sleep. Humanity was not unstoppable because of claws or scales. Humanity was unstoppable because nothing in existence could teach them how to surrender. The council chamber was silent, but the silence was not peace. It was heavy, suffocating, as though the very air resisted being drawn into the lungs of those present. The elders sat in a circle, eyes fixed on the images glowing above the table. They were not battle footage this time, not soldiers charging into fire or colonies burning. They were scans, data, biological reports, facts that painted a picture far more disturbing than any explosion or gunfire. The scientist who had gathered the information stood at the center, her voice calm but trembling beneath the surface. You have asked why humans never developed natural armor, why their species walks the galaxy exposed when others evolved shells, scales, or plating. The answer is simple. Armor was never needed. They became something far stronger. Her claw tapped the console, and the hollow shapes shifted into images of bone and muscle. Their bodies are not the strongest in the galaxy. They are not the fastest. They are not the most durable. But every weakness hides a strength. Their bones may break, but they heal faster than most species. Their skin may cut easily, but it closes with scar tissue that is thicker than before. Pain that should cripple only drives them forward. And unlike us, they do not collapse when exhaustion strikes. They adapt. Always. An elder hissed, his eyes narrowing. Adaptation is not enough. Even the weakest insect adapts to survive. The scientist did not argue. She simply pressed another control. Now the images showed history. Harsh worlds, brutal storms, endless deserts, frozen oceans. The humans had lived through all of them. Their planet, she said quietly, forged them in ways none of us truly understand. They were born in a world that tried to kill them at every turn. Poisonous beasts, shifting climates, diseases that wiped out millions. Where we grew with protection, they grew with resistance. Where we hid, they endured. Their weakness was never weakness. It was a forge. Another elder leaned forward, his plated hands gripping the table. And their minds. What of the way they fight? The scientist hesitated, then brought up footage from the colony. Humans pulling their wounded to safety, soldiers covering one another, civilians standing alongside warriors. This, she said softly, is their greatest weapon. Not claws. Not armor. not even endurance. It is each other. Their loyalty to one another is unlike anything we have seen. They refuse to abandon the weak. They refuse to leave the dying. And in doing so, they multiply their strength. One human fights like 10 because he believes 10 will fight for him. The words sank into the chamber like stones into water. No one spoke. No one breathed. Each elder saw the truth laid bare. Finally, the High Commander spoke, his voice cracked and weary. So armor was never needed. Their flesh is weak, but their will is unbreakable. Their unity is their shield. Their adaptability is their blade. What protects them is not outside their skin, but inside their spirit. The youngest elder whispered, almost to himself, "Then we have made a mistake greater than we know. We thought them fragile. We thought them prey. And now we see they are something else entirely." The chamber grew darker as the hollow screen dimmed. Yet the image of humans in the fire, bleeding, burning, but still standing, remained in every mind. The truth was undeniable. Humans did not need armor because armor was a cage. Armor slowed. Armor restricted. Humans were free to adapt, to bend, to endure. And in that freedom, they had become indestructible. The fires of the colony burned low, but the smoke still rose like a scar into the sky. The young soldier stood among the ruins, his armor dented, his claws trembling against his weapon. Around him, silence stretched, a silence broken only by the distant crackle of flames and the moans of the dying. His unit had survived, but barely. The humans had withdrawn again, vanishing into tunnels and shadows, yet their presence lingered like a ghost that refused to leave. His commander walked slowly through the wreckage, his face hard but his eyes hollow. He stopped beside the young soldier and stared at the blackened horizon. "We win every battle," he said softly, almost to himself. "And still, we lose." The soldier did not answer. He remembered the council's whispers, the scientists' words, the endless images of humans who should have fallen but did not. He remembered the woman fighting with a shattered arm, the man charging with wounds that should have ended him long before. He remembered the commander's own words, "They are the storm." And now he knew the storm was far from over. Across the galaxy, the stories spread faster than ships could travel. Traders, mercenaries, even pirates spoke the same warnings. Do not fight the humans. Do not provoke them. They do not break. They do not surrender. Each telling grew more terrifying. Some said humans could survive in the void of space. Others claimed they could fight for days without food or water. None of it mattered anymore, because the core of it was true. They endured. In the council chambers of distant worlds, leaders whispered whether to continue the war or to withdraw before it was too late. Some argued that the humans were still flesh, still mortal, and could be crushed with enough fire. Others stared into silence, knowing the truth in their hearts. Wars were not won by killing bodies. Wars were won by breaking wills. And humanity's will was iron. On the colony, the young soldier watched the sunrise push through the smoke. The light touched the ruins, touched the bodies, touched the broken walls that still stood despite everything. And in that moment, he realized the terrible truth. The humans were not just surviving, they were waiting. Every loss was a lesson. Every wound was a test. Every retreat was preparation for the next strike. He looked at his commander, then at the horizon, and a cold thought settled into him like ice. If humans were unstoppable now, broken and outnumbered, bleeding and outgunned, what would happen when they grew stronger? What would happen when they stopped defending and began to conquer? The soldier shivered, though the air was warm. The galaxy had always believed in monsters with claws, with teeth, with armor thick as steel. But those monsters had limits. The humans did not. They carried their armor inside them, persistence, unity, the refusal to fall. And as the sun rose higher, the soldier understood that the war had already changed forever. The galaxy could choose to fear them now, or face something far worse later. For humanity was not just surviving. Humanity was only beginning.